Hey, yo, how's it going, guys? Happy out today. Game number 2 of the best of 3 for the finals of the Arcanine9 League. Now, if you may have missed our first game, a link to that and the playlist will be down in the description. Unfortunately, we did catch our first loss here in game number 1, which means in order for us to win this finals, we not only have to win game number 2, but we also have to win in game number 3. So there should be a little timestamp on the screen for you guys. I've been forgetting to put that lately and I apologize, but yeah, should be a little timestamp where you guys kind of just go ahead and skip right to the beginning of the battle if you don't want to hear me rambling here about the team preview. I personally feel like talking about the team before the match is just as important as the actual battle itself, because you know the thought process of the person going into the battle. And you know about their sets and stuff. I don't know. To each their own, though. If you don't want to hear me, then yeah, just go skip right to the battle. But for those of you who do want to listen to me real quickly here, so obviously, as I said, we did lose game 1, and in game 1, I learned one very, very important thing. Arachnid is a giant problem. Much bigger of a problem than I initially thought it was going to be. So I have to find some way to tailor-make my team for game number 2 to where I can deal with the Arachnid while also ensuring that my opponent does not get up sticky webs, because if sticky webs get up, much like game number 1, I will automatically lose to her very speedy, scary offensive mons, mainly Battle Bond Greninja, sorry, or if she brings Protein here to game 2, and then of course Dragon Dance Zygarde is still absurdly terrifying. So looking at the team matchup here, it's basically the same thing as game number 1, obviously, but now I kind of got some information on what she may want to run, and now I have the information of Arachnid, so I have to try and apply that for game number 2 here. So first off, we have Assault Vest Nidoqueen. This basically ensures Gengar is not a problem whatsoever. Pursuit does about 60 to 70%, I think, on the switch, and I don't think she's going to expect me to have Pursuit on my Nidoqueen, so hopefully I can catch her Gengar off guard, in which case I can then have use for my Nidoqueen later in the battle. We now have Super Fang as our final move, just because I want to ensure getting off instant damage on anything, even if it's something like Arachnid. I thought about maybe putting Rock Slide over Super Fang, but I figured Super Fang would still be a decent measurement to deal with the Arachnid potentially. And then we have Earth Power for stab and Ice Beam to hit the Zygarde. Next off, we have Life Orb and Fernape, which I was originally going to bring a fire move on, but I figured that realistically, I don't think she's going to bring Vileplume, and she most definitely is not going to bring the Jinx. So I figured going for Rock Slide over the what's it, Fire Blast or Flare Blitz? It was one of the two, but going Rock Slide over our Fire Stab move is way more beneficial, because this means that now we are able to hit the Arachnid for some type of super effective damage. While we don't knock it out, there is a chance that we can flinch it, we can crit it, and there is a chance that she won't go directly for a liquidation. If she does do that in front of our Infernape, then as long as we get off the damage on Arachnid, I will be perfectly happy with that, because the sooner Arachnid is gone, the sooner webs are gone, and the sooner my Mega Blastoise here is going to be able to go for the Rapid Spin. Speaking of Rock Slide, we do have Rock Slide on Blastoise here. This does a clean like 30-ish% to Arachnid, and in hindsight I probably should have made this minus speed nature, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, after webs, we are still faster than Arachnid, which is actually kind of good, because now we do have the Rock Slide. And much like game number 1, I really do not expect her to want to bring Snorlax. I brought Komodo game 1. It's very likely I could bring it to game 2, or also bring my Infernape to game 2. So I don't expect her to want to bring the Snorlax here to game 2, which is why I figured that I could lose my Aura Sphere and I should still be fine to deal with the Snorlax, because if it's not immunity, then I can just Toxic it, pressure, and then with my Leech Seed Shaman eventually wear it down and beat it 1v1. This time we are rocking Extra Belt Shaman, which as I'm with the Leech Seed, and I made 100% sure to double check Hidden Power, and it is going to be Hidden Power Ice this time, because in game number 1 it wasn't Hidden Power Ice, but it didn't matter, because at that point I had already potentially lost the game anyways. So now we definitely do have Hidden Power Ice. Expert Belt is amazing because it does just that extra little bit of damage to Zygarde, which is going to make it easier for us to deal with. Still, this lives one +1 Devastating Drake from Zygarde, which is great. There should be nothing on my team that allows Zygarde to get the +2, and that's my main way of trying to deal with it. Like, Zygarde's going to get a free Dragon Dance regardless, just because of how bulky it is. But it's only a threat if it gets 2 Dragon Dances, and that is something I am not going to allow her to do freely. Next off, we have Omni Boosting Jirachi. Yes, Omni Boosting is allowed. I brought Commonium Z game 1, but I wasn't able to find an opportunity to go for it. This time around, though, with Omni Boosting Jirachi, this can actually sweep her entire team late game. This could also even beat Mega Aggron 1v1 once it's weakened, because we take Heavy Slam, we take Earthquake, and then if it comes down to it, I will try and Iron Head flinch it to give me the best odds of coming out of that scenario on top. Stealth Rocks, because literally nothing else on the team could have rocks, and this is kind of nice because if I do get up rocks with my Jirachi, then she may think that I'm not Omni Boosting, or that maybe I'm some type of weakening berry like a Shucka Berry, Cobra Berry, or Ghost Weakening Berry. So then I can use that to my advantage late game to hopefully get off the Omni Boost and then kind of just wreck through her team with Iron Head and Drain Punch. Obviously Vileplume is a problem, but again, I really do not expect Vileplume to come to game number 2. I feel like it has not enough use whatsoever, so I don't necessarily have too much on my team that can hit it for super effective damage, so I have to be very careful if she does bring it, but I don't think she is going to. And then finally off, we have a Choice Scarf for Greninja here. This is my best way of being able to somehow deal with all her speed and a +1 speed Zygarde. If Zygarde beats my Shaman down after the HP Ice, Zygarde is in range of where Ice Beam or Dark Pulse will be able to knock it out. I thought about making this Battle Bond so I could have like Scarf Battle Bond Greninja, which would have been kind of cool, but I figured that Protein ultimately is going to be just a little bit better because I still get stab on all my other moves, including Ice Beam and U-Turn, which that extra little bit of damage could come in very, very handy. So yeah, guys, that is our team for battle number 2. Hopefully we can win this one and take it to a game 3 where we can win the league. So yeah, let's just hop into the battle. All right, here we are, game number 2 of the best of 3 for the finals of the Arcanine9 league. So if you guys may have missed game number 1, we did unfortunately lose game 1, and I went over in the team building portion that Arachnid was a giant issue I did not realize was as problematic as it turned out to be. So I did expect it to come game number 2, and I tried to prep around it a little bit better. Something I really did not expect, though, was going to be the Vileplume. Now, this is really bad, because if you saw from my team building portion, I actually don't have a fire move on my Infernape, and I don't have Psychic on my Shaman, nor do I have Earth Power. The best move I have is Hidden Power Ice, but I am defensive, so it's not going to be doing entirely too much damage. And even though I do have Ice Beam on my Greninja, I'm Scarfed, and then my Nidoqueen could potentially be put to sleep if she has the Sleep Powder. So Vileplume is actually looking like a giant nuisance. Besides that, though, Greninja offensively is terrifying if it specs Battle Bond once again, and then Zygarde sweeps me if I allow it to get to +2 speed and +2 attack. So obviously I need to prevent that, and then Florges plus Mega Aggron is a nice staple core that I should be able to deal with accordingly. So much like game number 1, I expect her to want to lead off with her Arachnid, as I'm going to be leading off with my Infernape. Now initially I wanted to lead with my Blastoise because I thought I had put Rock Slide on it, but it turns out I didn't have the Rock Slide on my Blastoise, and that comes to cost me a little bit later in the match. But turn 1 here, my Infernape is well trained, and I'm able to get a flinch on the Arachnid. Yes, I am on the other side. That is because the original file of this match got lost when I needed to reformat my SD card. So yeah, apologize, I mentioned that in game number 1 if you watched it. So regardless, it is what it is. As she switches out here into the Florges, I am able to connect my Gunk Shot this time, putting her directly in range of where the next turn a close combat, even after leftovers, is going to be enough to knock her out. And the reason why this is significant is because if she wanted to be cheeky and try to bring in potentially Zygarde or her Aggron, then I would absolutely blow both of them back with the close combat. That crit did not matter. I guess I could double check the calcs, but I remember running it during the actual match, and I'm pretty positive that didn't matter. So she's going to decide to bring in her Zygarde, thinking that I actually have no move to hit her with, but little does she know I actually do have the Hidden Power Ice, and because I am Life Orb running a good bit of special attack investment, this does a clean like 90-95% to Zygarde, and this is amazing because now this Zygarde is severely weakened, easily able to be revenge killed. Arachnid is weakened and it's not able to get up webs right now, and then Florges is also gone. So Infernape just managed to punch a giant hole through my opponent's team, and I am definitely going to take advantage of that as she knocks me out here with the 1,000 arrows. I thought about switching out there, but realistically I don't have much use for my Infernape because I don't have a fire move on it, so I didn't have anything to hit the Vileplume entirely too strong besides like Hidden Power Ice, which even then might not be doing too much damage. As my Greninja is able to eat the extreme speed, I end up going for the Dark Pulse. So I guess in hindsight I might have been able to go for the U-turn, but I didn't want to risk a potential roll if she did have a little bit of bulk invested. So in comes her Greninja. I still think this is going to be her Specs Battle Bond set that she brought game 1 just because it utterly destroyed me. So I'm going to switch into my Blastoise knowing that after Mega Evolving I can easily take 2 of her hits and then in return hit her with at least an Aura Sphere. If I had the Rock Slide, I definitely would have gone for this turn, as any damage off on Greninja is really good for my Omni boosting Jirachi in the back and my own Scarf Greninja. So I am forced to go for the Ice Beam here because it's the move that's most likely going to do damage to whatever she is going to want to bring in here. I did maybe expect her to try to bring in the Vileplume thinking I would go for the Aura Sphere, but she makes a smart switch by bringing in her Araquanid, and then she makes an excellent play, predicts me to go for the Toxic, and she's going to bounce it back with the Magic Coat. Now this is really problematic because if I had Rock Slide, I would have been able to easily knock out this Araquanid after the Ice Beam damage and Leftovers recovery, but I don't. So now there is a chance that she could get up the webs, and that is going to be very, very annoying. Luckily though, Zygarde is gone, so that's one less issue I have to deal with, and I do still have my Shaman at a very high amount of HP to potentially be able to deal with her Greninja. So even if she does end up getting up the webs here, it is not going to be as bad as it was in game number 1, where she still had most of her offensive mons left. Her only real offensive threat right now is that Greninja, and I have plenty of bulk to be able to hopefully play around that, although the issue of the Vileplume is also still there because there is nothing on my team that is going to be able to 2-hit KO that Vileplume, and if webs stay up, then she's going to be able to outspeed my Shaman and my Nidoqueen with that Vileplume, which could be very annoying. So she ends up going for double sticky webs here, just on the off chance that I did want to go for the Rapid Spin, but I figured saving my Blastoise for later to try and get off a Rapid Spin would have been my better play, because even after webs, Shaman is still faster than Araquanid, so I need to go for the Seed Flare here. I really don't mind if she did want to bring in her Vileplume here. I felt like that was an incorrect sentence, but we're just gonna keep going with it. So I end up going for the Seed Flare, don't get the Spadef drop, which actually would have been very, very handy because then that meant that my Hidden Power Ice would be doing way more damage to her. But regardless, I do have a decent switch into this Vileplume in my Assault Vest Nidoqueen. I'm really, really hoping she does not have the Sleep Powder, because if she does have Sleep Powder, this makes this thing even more even more annoying, dude. Sleep Powder is legitimately like the worst case scenario right here against this Vileplume, because not only do I need to let something on my team get put to sleep, I also need to try and find some way to maybe like outstall her Synthesis, like make her waste all 8 of them, or if I get lucky with the crit or something, then that'd be a great way to beat the Vileplume as well. But regardless, I leave in my Nidoqueen here to try and waste some turns of rest, and then I make an aggressive play by staying in. The reason I say that is because I figured that my switch in the Shaman was entirely too obvious, and because she is most likely Specs like she was game 1, then there's no reason for her to go for a water move, and even if she goes for an ice type move, she's not Protean. I am Assault Vested, I am very bulky, so I will be able to live the hit, and then if I wake up, I do solid damage to her with the Earth Power, as in comes the Vileplume on the Earth Power. She unfortunately misses the Sleep Powder, but because she is faster than me, she will be able to go for it again, and I really don't think she's going to want to go for the Synthesis this turn, because if she puts me to sleep, she can go for the Synthesis the following turn regardless. So I'm going to make a hard switch right into my Shaman, expecting her to go for the Sleep Powder, and even after the webs, if she is not running any type of speed on this Vileplume, I will be able to outspeed her. I thought that maybe she would be running a little bit of speed, which is why I mentioned earlier that she could potentially outspeed my Shaman in the webs, but luckily she isn't, and Shaman is able to finish her off with the Hidden Power Ice, thanks to that nice expert belt I had put on Shaman here. So in comes the Mega Aggron. This thing cannot really touch me. I'm physically defensive. Heavy Slam at most is going to be doing only like 1/3, maybe under 1/3, especially with Leech Seed, because she most likely is running max HP on this Aggron. My Shaman is going to be recovering back a decent bit of HP. I also still have Synthesis, and if it comes down to it, I can spam Seed Flare to try and fish for some Spadef drops, and because Aggron has no reliable recovery, eventually I will beat it 1v1. So that's what I'm going to try and do these first like 2 or 3 turns or so against Aggron here. I was also thinking that maybe I could put her in a cycle to where I could try to bring in my Blastoise to hopefully Rapid Spin, or try to bring in my Jirachi to go for the Omni boost. Then that way my Jirachi could potentially sweep through the rest of her team. So I go for the Synthesis here, just on the slight chance that she did want to try and switch into her Arachnid potentially, but it does make sense that she's just going to decide to be aggressive here with the Aggron. I don't think she's going to want to risk bringing in something to take damage from the Shaman when she does not necessarily have a good switch in. But if I'm able to keep the Shaman at a high enough amount of HP, there is no way Greninja will be able to beat me 1v1 if it comes down to it. And because she's been going for the Heavy Slam, I'm going to expect her to go for it again. As I bring in my Jirachi, it actually turns out that she has the Toxic, which I was not anticipating whatsoever, and this is really nice because I get in my Jirachi at full HP, which means after I go for my Omni boost, I get a +1 in my defense, putting me out of range along with Drain Punch and Leech Seed recovery, to where the Greninja will not be able to knock me out with one Specs Dark Pulse. However though, of course, there is a chance that she could get a flinch with the Dark Pulse on my Jirachi, in which case that could be a little bit bad, but we still shouldn't be in an absolutely losing position because I still have Shaman. Shaman can still beat that Arachnid, and Shaman can still live any one hit from the Greninja, but it comes down to whether or not I'm able to land my Seed Flare. So hopefully I don't put myself in that scenario, or that scenario doesn't actually happen, as I do knock out the Aggron here. Again, I am directly out of range of where a Specs Dark Pulse will be able to knock me out, and her best bet is to bring in Greninja in hopes that she does get the flinch, which I think would be justifiable since I did kind of flinch her Arachnid turn 1. So she goes for the Dark Pulse and does not get the flinch, as I will be able to finish her off with the Drain Punch. And at this point, with her last mon being an Arachnid at around 1/3 HP, there is no way that that's going to be able to beat the combination of my last mons here, guys. So we are able to pull out the victory in game number 2. We are heading into game number 3, 1-1. It is now do or die. We need to win game number 3 in order for us to win the league and win the prize, which I'll mention the prize in battle number 3. So if we lose the league and the major prize, but if we win the league and we win the major prize. So with that being said, if you guys did enjoy, hit that thumbs up button down below, of course, only if you did enjoy. And with that being said, I'll see you all tomorrow, most likely with game number 3. So let me know, do you think we can win game number 3, or do you think we're going to get absolutely tossed once again? Comment down below. And with that being said, I'll see you all tomorrow. Later, everybody.